Hello! Hey everyone! How are we doing? We are back. We're finally back with episode 4 of Therosian Odyssey, season 3, Isles of Uncertainty. We had our last session with Eva a little bit ago now. All sorts has happened, tech gremlins and goodness knows what else. So schedules have had to be rearranged, but it's okay. It's fine. And we're very, very excited because this week we're going to be focusing on Caliuca. Wave, Caliuca.
Caillou is waving.
And Caillou. How could I forget? We're going to be focusing on Caliuca and Caillou. So I've already explained a fair few times. So if you've been kind of like watching some of the other episodes, you will already know that we used to be on Girls Run These Worlds for 2 whole seasons, and we absolutely loved our time there. We were over there doing sort of 8 to 10 episodes of limited series. We decided that because Greek mythology, which Theros, the world is based in Greek mythology, is full of sprawling, epic, long tales, full of adventures, that limited series didn't quite suit our play style, and it didn't quite suit the nature of the campaign. So we have now moved the campaign over to my channel, The Law Mistress, which is where you are now. If you are watching this and you're not there, then I don't know how you're managing that, but, you know, fantastic work. We've moved that over here. So we are now picking up in season 3, and we are doing solo sessions with each individual character. This is our 4th of 5, so that we can kind of reacquaint ourselves with the characters, learn a few extra little tidbits and secrets and bits of lore about their backstories and about their motivations and their feelings and whatnot. And then we can bring everyone back together to begin our campaign from season 3, right where we left off, in the middle of the Siren Sea on a boat. So thank you, Girls Run These Worlds, for hosting our first 2 seasons, and we're very excited to continue. At the end of season 2, all of our characters got pulled into a dream. These seasons, or these solo sessions, I should say. I'm really struggling with words today. I hope this gets better. That was a few too many S words just there. They all got pulled into a dream, so we're taking these solo sessions to explore those dreams a little bit further before they all come together. Without further ado, let's introduce ourselves. I will start. I'm Kat. I use she, her pronouns. I am also known on the internet as the Law Mistress, because that is how I have branded myself. I will be the Dungeon Mistress, the game facilitator of this session, and Therosian Odyssey as a whole. And I'm joined by the wonderful Kumi, who I literally only spoke to a few days ago, and I haven't seen in so long, and it made me a little emotional. Kumi, please tell us about yourself, a little bit about yourself, tell us your pronouns, and tell us a little bit about Caliuca, the character that we will be discussing today.
So, hello everybody, I'm Kumi. I am from India, and I run this little D&D store here called Kumi's Curiosities. I also stream with the Pigeon Killers, but for the last 2 years, I've been incredibly fortunate to bother Kat with an insane number of K names. Starting with, of course, Caliuca Killsong, who is a barbarian who, in the first season, ran away to pursue her dreams of becoming a great performer after having been trained to be a gladiator at the family arena. Now, her father, Killjoy, was quite the Killjoy, didn't really like that much. My whole character arc for a long time was, how do I go back and tell him, Dad, running away was a good idea. That one day that I was out of town was fantastic. But yes, I have a huge family filled with amazing siblings, a fantastic mom who's a healer, and they have been quite supportive of my musical pursuits. My companions as well, and the rest of um, the rest of my party as well has put up with my insistent bagpipe playing, even though it started with, I think the way I made my entrance in the first season and the first way they all saw me was they came to the arena and I walked out with a mop on my head so that my father wouldn't recognize me.
A mop. Oh goodness. Right, I feel like we'll get a real glimpse into the energy. I came into this with like, we're gonna run a Greek mythology themed D&D campaign full of sprawling epic stories and fantastic myths and monsters and all of this. And Kumi came into it like, I want everyone's name to begin with K. I want to be playing the bagpipes, only the most Greek musical instrument that you could ever think of, the bagpipes. And just me, just like, okay, you're about to enter this arena. Yeah, I'm gonna just grab a nearby mop and put it on my head. There must be some Greek myth which involves a mop on someone's head. If you can find me one, tell me. I want to read it immediately because I need it for inspiration for Kalyuka's storyline. So that's the challenge. Chat, all of you. I'm setting you on a task. Find me a Greek mythology, a Greek myth that involves someone putting a mop or some. I will accept any kind of cleaning implement on their forehead, on top of their brow, and I will. I'm not going to offer any reward. Only my gratitude is what you'll be getting. Cool. So thank you for that. Thank you for the introduction to Kalyuka.
Also, when I ran away, I found this little almirage called Caillou, another K for cat.
Yeah, everybody's name in Kalyuka's backstory begins with A, and it's so good.
Kai's name, a sassy little sweetheart. She is there to make sure that I don't make the worst decisions, I would say. Oh, yes. And I'm Kumi. My pronouns are she, her. My bad. I completely forgot. I just want to get into Kalyuka.
Yeah, that's fine. Hello, Kumi, with she, her pronouns. Thank you for introducing us to Kalyuka. What I would like you to do, I'm very aware that just below where your little window is a picture of what Kalyuka and Caillou look like. But I would like for you, so that we may fulfill accessibility needs, to describe, please, what Kalyuka, and I'll let you describe Caillou as well. Please tell us what they both look like.
So Kalyuka is tall. She's about 6'3", I would say, with bright pink hair. She has her right eye that's covered with a little bit of I've forgotten what it's called. An eye patch. Oh my god.
I thought it's something special, so I was like, I won't say eye patch. Clearly, there's a special name for this.
She has this fantastic metallic pink bra and these these I would say like different strips of the same sort of pink leather that's wrapped around her legs. She also wears these high heeled boots and carries with her this massive morning star, which is again this beautiful dark pink. Yeah, Kalyuka likes pink. She has freakishly really fair skin, coming from her Goliath heritage. She also has beautiful tattoos all over her body. But I think what's the most striking thing about Kalyuka is her smile. And until you have forced to listen to her bagpipes, which now she plays a lot better, but when she started off, it was quite bad. And
I
then
believe in our first session, you played the most beautiful rendition of Old MacDonald Had a Farm that the fine composer of Across had ever heard. So, um,
And by my side is this little shiny Nix-born bunny rabbit with a horn. She has beautiful dark purple fur that's just filled with tiny glitters of stars all over it, and has these gorgeous iridescent eyes. I love Caillou. She's just so pretty.
Caillou is incredibly pretty. And for those of you that don't know what Kumi means by Nyx, it is part of the Therosian or Theros's lore, is where the gods reside and where magic comes from is called the Nyx, and it is essentially space. It's essentially the night sky, the swirling nebula. Pretty much every night looks like the northern lights are kind of constantly going in Theros because of Nyx magic. So that is what that's referring to. Cool. Let me get my notes back up. So, thank you for that description. Just a few safety bits before we get started. Theros is rooted in ancient Greek and fantasy tropes, so you will find some of those things within the games and the kind of like media of that nature that you often find. I won't be including discrimination or hate speech with any kind of misogynistic, transphobic, homophobic, racist, or ableist lens within the game. It just doesn't feel necessary or right for my world. But during gameplay, some difficulties may come up. So if anything makes you feel uncomfortable or it doesn't quite vibe with your headspace, then please don't feel like you have to stay. We're very grateful for your support. We're very grateful for you watching, but please feel free to find another stream to enjoy. There are many talented content creators out there, and we thank you so much for your support. But look after yourselves. Cool. So that's everything on my end. How are you feeling, Kumi? Are you ready?
I am ready to get into Kalyuka's voice. I've been waiting for this for over a year now.
Missed Kalyuka so much. Okay. All right. So, evening draws in, and the sun sets low over the glittering Siren Sea, as another day on the ocean draws to an end. Your time out on your voyage to the Dakra Isles has been incredibly exciting, Kalyuka. Your world in Akros, though filled with a loving family, is very small in a lot of ways. But out here on the sea, you are free to play music. There are plenty of strange and interesting sights to see. Lots of people that you have met and to meet. You haven't even arrived at the islands yet. You've literally just been on the ocean and you've met plenty of interesting characters and worthy combatants to fight also. And of course, there are the people that you have been traveling with who have been an endless source of entertainment and delight. And it's been so nice to kind of find a little new group of people to hang around with and to share space with. I'm going to take a moment to remind ourselves a little of Kalyuka's time on the ship and journey so far and what Kalyuka has been doing to catch our viewers up. Kalyuka has probably, out of the party, I would say, been the most curious about the ship and its inner workings, has taken a really good amount of time to get to know the crew. And I'm not talking, there's a sort of main party of crew members that basically almost form their own adventuring party in a way that you've kind of gotten to know with your time here. But I'm talking about the nameless crew, you know, like crew member 39. Kaliuka has taken special interest in getting to know these people, this group of nameless workers, who I'm sure I will be forced to call them all K names as Kaliuka gets to know them better and better.
Everywhere I go, I need more and more fans, you know.
More K names. So you've been kind of doing a lot of that. And through them, I think that Kaliuka has learned quite a lot about the named crew, as it were, and has their respect. So I would definitely say that Kaliuka is the most popular party member amongst everyone, and definitely the most charismatic. We have Estrella, our half-elf wizard, who is very mission focused, let's say, and has a little bit less time for chitter chatter. Callista is our cleric and a little anxious, a little nervous. Eva, our ranger, their whole vibe is secrecy and keeping to themselves. So apart from in their solo session, they did kind of come out their shell a little bit. And Onyx, our paladin, is very solemn and aloof, we should say. So Kaliuka is the life and soul of the party. Literally. You did also learn from meeting Chorus, Prince Chorus, and his people that your instrument, your bagpipes, were in some way recognizable to them. They kind of recognized the design a little bit. They briefly alluded to knowledge of a sort of magical, maybe even divine variation of this instrument that might exist. And they called it Sampuna. But before you could get more information, off they went. And you were left wondering a little about that. And last but not least, we cannot talk about Kaliuka without talking about how not every moment on the ship has quite been positive. From the moment you set foot upon it, you found your greatest enemy, Kaliuka, in an adorable little goblin named Cedric, who is literally the ship's chef. What was Cedric's great crime? I hear you ask, chat. Well, it was a pretty big crime. Cedric mistook poor Caillou to potentially be a ingredient for one of his dishes, a gifted ingredient. The problem is, Kaliuka, or the problem was, anyway, that everyone else on the ship seemed to adore Cedric. And it seemed that only you were aware of this great evil amongst your ranks for quite a while. But recently, you have taken a little time to talk to Cedric and discovered that, to probably no one else's surprise, he might not actually be that bad. So, is the feud finally over? We shall find out. So with all that in mind, this evening, we come into it's evening is drawing in, and it's been a pretty good day. You had in the sort of just before this happened, you had a altercation with a great bird made of lightning named Kahara. You eventually defeated this bird, and it was in fact a phoenix and transformed back into its egg form. And after a little bit of tense conversation with the captain, who wanted to immediately throw it into the sea, your party, namely Estrella and Eva, and I think a little bit Callista, managed to negotiate keeping this egg aboard for now, at least. And the crew are in good spirits. It was a really tough battle. Everyone was very fearful of this bird and thought that was it. They thought that their time had come to an end. And Hector, the ship's cleric, it is considered very bad luck to go on a voyage without some form of piety on board towards Thassa, the great sea goddess, and especially a sort of a voyage of this size, of this importance, needs a cleric, nothing less. And Hector is this chosen cleric. Somehow, we're not sure how yet, Hector was chosen, but Hector decided we're gonna have a sermon, and I'm going to talk, and you're all gonna sit and listen, and we're gonna thank Thassa properly for keeping us safe and warding off this bird with us, and looking after this voyage. And somehow, over the course of the day, as this conversation has gone on, amid the groans and the grumblings of the crew, this sermon, this celebration has now turned into a celebration more of the party kind. Alcohol is viable and around. Plenty of food is being organized. Cedric has been hard at work creating lots of food, and much to Hector's disappointment, I don't think that the preaching part is now a part at all of this. It's just a celebration. In Thassa's name, of course. We're all celebrating Thassa, right? So, tell me, as we kind of come into this, how, over the course of this trip, how has Calliope been feeling? What was Calliope's headspace like in this kind of moment as we get into these celebrations, and she kind of looks around and everyone's partying and having fun and kind of doing their own thing? How does Calliope feel?
It's taken her a moment, but I think after the past two battles that they had, even though um, the sea people had just come to retrieve their prince, it could have very well turned into a massive battle that would have resulted in a lot of misunderstanding on either side. And then confronting the magical bird as well, that seemed to be such a huge ball of energy that fizzled out to become what? An egg? Seeing all this, I think Kalyuka, she hasn't really thought of her own mortality until coming on this voyage. And earlier, when she had ran away from home, everything seemed to be wondrous, everything seemed to be new. There was no fear of the unknown, but the more people she meets, the more people they fight against, the more gods that seem to intervene into their fates, it does terrify her a little as she looks at the rest of the crew members, as she looks at her own party. She does feel slightly insignificant. She's looking at them and she thinks, the strength I have, Onyx is stronger than me. I might be good at talking to people, but Astrea is better than that. You know? The gods might have favored me once. Eros himself came and spoke to me when I left my home, but Callista has a bond with the gods that I can never have. Eva has so much that she can do. She can sneak, she can hide, she can fight, she can talk to animals too. Kalika always thought she was good with animals. And looking around, and at this moment, everyone's having fun. They don't need her there to have fun. But also, she remembers how much, even if she feels like her worth might have diminished or might be insignificant, she remembers the battle. She remembers how Eva was dragged underneath the water, how Onyx tried to catch her, and she kept going further and further away, no control over her abilities until she woke up and came back up. She remembers how Astrea helped bring down what seemed to be like a mythical bird in the skies. She thinks of Onyx, who doesn't think, does, she does all the time. She doesn't fear. They just go after what they want. She thinks of Callista, how even though every lock fails her, she will try to open a new one. And she thinks, though, of the confidence she had when Callista said, "If you were to jump onto the water, I will help you walk on it." And she trusted her right away. She remembers looking at Eva and Onyx going below the water and thinking, I must go after them. And even if she's insignificant, if she's able to help in any way when her friends are in danger, she's glad she's here for that. And feeling this way and looking at everyone and Caillou just like hopping a little, dancing with the beat, but just like doing a thump, 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 like this is not the music I want. There's a little bit of other music that I want. Kalika stands, looks at everyone in all this tense atmosphere, in all the uncertainties at sea. This moment here, everyone rejoices. And why be so gloomy when everyone's happy? And so she takes out her bagpipes and just to lighten up a little, maybe herself, or to even lighten the mood even more, she starts playing her bagpipes. And as she does, she's going to stand and cast out fairy fire.
Eh,
Just like, hey, we can have a disco party at sea.
fantastic.
I don't know how many people choose to fail the dexterity save, but I'm just assuming that the walls are illuminated, that this bit of color that was missing from, this vastness of sea is all blue. The only color that you can really see as far as the eye goes is everybody on board and what colors they wear. And she tries to illuminate people with the sort of inner glow that she finds in them. And whatever way that she can, she just tries to heighten that feeling that everyone's having.
Interesting. You should say that. All right. So, that first of all, that was heartwarming. And the real like insecurity was that just made me feel a bit like, what? So I think as you look around and you kind of like have this moment of real deep introspection, you're kind of looking around at your friends, and it's so interesting because you know, some of them are behaving exactly how you'd expect them to. Estrella's just kind of stood on the side. She's not interacting with or talking with anyone as such. She's got a sort of small drink in hand. She seems to be waiting for the moment that it is socially acceptable for her to leave, so that she will immediately go. And that seems to be the kind of vibe that Estrella is giving off. But she's looking around. She's perceptive, so analyzing the situation as always. Callista, coming out of her shell in a way. She's always been very sweet natured, and even if she's nervous, she finds it easy to talk to people and get on with people, even the people on board the ship that perhaps others find more difficult to get on with. And sure enough, you see as she's sort of at the prow of the ship, and Hector is over sort of sat next to her, and they are deep in conversation, and she doesn't seem at all bored, as most people do when they're in conversation with Hector, or frustrated. She's listening to him with a real intensity and a real smile, and there's something admirable about just seeing someone who has time for everyone, even the people that no one else has time for. You see Eva is the person that's surprising you most, perhaps. Normally Eva is found in the crow's nest or cannot be found at all. This time, however, Eva is mingling amongst the people. She is. I just saw your faces and like, what? Eva is mingling amongst the people and
Can I
attempting to go
can I
on.
make sure she's not trying to steal things from them?
She's not trying to. You know what? Roll a perception check for me, so that you can find out what Eva's trying to do. I love that, the way you just went immediately to theft.
Why would Eva talk to people?
Why not?
And honestly, yeah, I got a 19.
Oh,
Yeah, that was a good roll.
that's the surprise me.
And Kaluka is so shocked. She's like, has she changed?
Galiuka, every time you roll a perception check, I swear, I'm always expecting it to not be, anything fantastic, and you always get these amazing perception checks. You watch Eva, because that is unusual behavior from Eva, and immediately your eyes are sort of drawn to that. You're thinking about Eva, and you're thinking, oh wow, she can do all these things. She can sneak, and she can be hidden. I bet I won't even be able to find. Oh, there she is. Huh. And you're watching her go around, and you are immediately looking for signs of her doing something that, is there a reason that she's out here? And I think that what you see is that she just seems curious. And you know that Eva is a curious Kenku.
Curious bird.
And she's curious about this camaraderie. She's curious about this party. It's like it's the first time that she's ever experienced something like this. She's never been to one before, perhaps it occurs to you. So it's not necessarily that she's there to disrupt it or to get something from it, anything other than to satisfy a curiosity and to perhaps make some form of effort that she has not found herself making so far.
Do I see also?
You do notice her take what you assume, going by her immediate reaction, to be her very first alcoholic drink. And it's the strong stuff. You know that to be the strong stuff. You've been drinking it with absolutely no problem. You know that to be the real strong stuff that should be, sipped. And she just takes a whole swig. She's ready, except she's not ready, and she immediately almost throws up. And so then, and she kind of swoops off, and Dion sort of like swoops in to take care of her. Gives you a look of like, I got this, and just kind of.
Do I see a little furry 8-legged friend also around her?
No, you do not. No sign of Julio. I love that we're calling them 8-legged, because we're like, what's going to make cats arachnophobia tingle? I'm very prepared for Julio's presence. Julio is the only spider that I will accept in life. No, you don't see any sign of Julio. Either Julio is well hidden on Eva's person, or Julio is not with Eva at this time. You kind of watch around, and you watch your friends kind of interact, and you have this moment of introspection. You have this moment of sort of almost insecurity of this. What do I bring? Why am I here? The thing that I have grown up thinking that I'm supposed to be good at is not the thing that I want to do. The thing that I want to do, maybe I'm not good at it. And it sort of brings into you. And as you feel this, you have this strange sensation, and it's one that you recognize from your battle with Kahara. While you were fighting with Kahara, at one point you reached deep within yourself to a connection that you didn't even really know existed until that moment, and you reached out to find a voice, and a voice answered. An old captain, desperate to have some final last stand against its long Its long-standing nemesis, this lightning bird, and have their last stand. They did. Clearly, the bird came out on top, and this captain became a ghost. It became a shadow, a whisper of their former self, but something that you could connect to. And you have never done anything like that before until that battle. And ever since that battle, you've had this strangely uneasy feeling of just walking, and as you walk, you hear sort of almost a little whisper. And I think that that's something that you might have grown up with. But it's been something that's so insignificant and taken up mere seconds of, entire weeks of nothing and then a second or two, that it's too insignificant for you to have really noticed or got on board with. But something within you, you can feel it, has awakened, and now you're more in tune with whatever feelings are, whatever these creatures, past lives, former living.
Mhm.
And right now, as you have this moment of introspection, you feel it begin to spiral a little. Just for a moment, it spirals down and down and down from momentary insecurity to all-out fear. It blooms within you. You hear these whispers, dreading their time approaching the island, dreading the fears that await, the things that await them, the dangers that they might find there, the things that could kill them, the numerous things that could take their life, the people that they've left behind that might not see them again. Dread and dread and dread blossoms and blossoms and blossoms, and you begin to feel it almost, it's almost like it's pulling you under. It's this feeling of almost like drowning, and then suddenly for a moment you just hear laughter, and you're back on the deck, you're back with the people. Callista is in the corner of the ship just nearby, and it's her laughter that has brought you out of this. She's smiling and laughing at something, and for a second you're back, and you think again, but this time the insecurity is gone. You don't want to feel that anymore. So you begin to think about the things that you do bring. You begin to pull out your bagpipes, and everyone cheers. Because you do bring such a sense of soul and such a sense of happiness to the crew and the morale. They're so happy to see you bringing out your bagpipes. Your songs have become quite famed upon this ship, and immediately everyone cheers and goes, yeah, Callioca's gonna play us a song, Callioca, anything, we'll hear anything from you, play us something happy. And you hear Hector's voice from somewhere in the crowd, something dedicated to Thassa, and everyone goes, oh yeah, to Thassa, and everyone's kind of cheering and laughing. So you want to play a song. I will have you do a performance check to do so, please.
Ooh. Could I guidance myself?
You absolutely can, yes.
Yes. Okay, let's go for that. Yes, come on. Give me a good one. I thought that was so bad. Okay. Come on. Guidance, give me something a little better. Oh my god, that was even worse. Okay. That is, I think, a 13 total.
13 total. Okay.
Well, 15 total, my bad. 15 total.
Okay, 15. 15. Okay. It's not the amazing. Look, it's become a bit of a running joke in Theros that if you're rolling under a 25, apparently that's terrible. That's something that started by Jen's exceptionally high expectations of Australia. So 15 is pretty good, okay? I'm not going to say it's absolutely your best work. You know that you have played better than this, but considering that feeling that you just gave into, which when you connected with that spirit during the battle, it felt positive, it felt helpful, it felt like it was something that was uh, good and driving, and perhaps that was fueled by the spirit's own feelings. Um, there was no fear in that spirit, even though they knew that they were probably going for their final battle. This was what they wanted. This is what they were excited about. This is what fueled them. But then, what you just felt, you were tapping into a similar magic or something, but it was pulling you down. It was swamping you. And that is something that would frighten you. And so, yes, it might affect your playing just a little as you try to shake off this strange feeling. Everyone here is drunk. So no one notices the wobbles, okay? No one notices the occasional dud note. Everyone here is having a good time, and you play song after song. You play a song that is dedicated to Thassa. You have to rack your brains a little bit. You grew up in Akros. Not a lot of water around Akros, or bodies of water, I should say. You've got the river data, but that's it. So you have to rack your brains for a sort of like Miletian water water
What is
bardic song that kind of will, and you kind of rack your brains. And I think actually what you end up going with is something that you've heard, some sea shanty that you've heard the crew sing as they've been working away on the ship and hoisting the sails and rowing and you know, do all the sea things that people do. And I think that you kind of draw on that, and you're just like, I'll just go with that. They'll listen to anything I play them.
I
And so
think I
go on.
think at this moment, there's voices that I heard growing up. They've constantly always. I think as a child, I always presumed them to be like quick, like jabs given by my father and other elder gladiators. And even though it's never scared me in a ghostly way, it's always been this sort of annoyance at the back of the head, like, oh, Kaliuka, strike harder. Where are you striking? Can you not even see? Oh, is that why you lost your eye? And things like that, you know. And it's been like it's eaten me from the inside for so long that hearing that murmur at the back of my head actually transform into a story, into a lived experience, was something that was fascinating in the last battle. And at this point, when my whole life I've thought that these voices were there to pull me down, to discipline me, to not really give me guidance, but force me into a way. And that's the reason why I took up music instead, because I was so tired of being told to follow some sort of order. And from having these voices just, you know, yell at me, tell me things, or, you know, things that I couldn't even understand growing up, to hear to an audience that calls my name and says, Kalyuka, play for us, I think it chokes me a little, because it's like, I can't believe that finally, you know, at the this is what I wanted at the Colosseum. This is I wanted everyone to call my name. I wanted them to see me do something that I wasn't trained to do. And as I try to, I give a terrible shanty. It's not my best. I shoot like Hector an apologetic look, but you know, he's been sitting a long time with Callista, you know, and I haven't had time to talk to Callista tonight. And it's like slightly bothering me that, you know, they've been talking for so long, and then he just shoots out an order like, ha ha ha, sing a song for Thassa, like, yeah, who are you, Hector? Okay. But
Who are you, Hector?
so
Um,
from a song from Thassa, I slowly go into a sweet hum, something that I have heard Callista hum to herself at times, especially when she's in deep concentration or she's trying to calm herself. And I'm going to play and compose a tune around that hum. And I don't think I very well know what I'm doing with it, but maybe I'm trying to get her attention. Maybe it's just like, you know what, you've been rooming with someone else as well, and we haven't really spent much time together. But just to kind of let her know that, you know, that band that she gave me, the warding band, that I still hold it true and close. And as I play this song to everyone, but especially for her, I smile and kind of just dwell back into the shadows a bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wisdom save to let slip the true feelings. Uh-huh. Okay, so you're playing this sort of second song, and I imagine Lulu is in the chat. Lulu can absolutely correct me if I'm wrong. I imagine it's sort of as you kind of finish up this song for Thassa, Hector has been kind of, tapping his hoof. He's in deep conversation, but he is kind of like half listening and everything like that. And seems to be there's that one dud note that you play that makes him just go "Ooh," like that, and then oh yes, 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 yes. And he's trying to be polite. He's trying to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And Callista, she's in conversation with him, but every so often she keeps looking over at you, and she sort of smiles at you. And during that song, she really smiles. The friendship that you have struck up with Callista is one that is very close, very quickly. The two of you are like peas in a pod. I think that most people would fairly say that you bring out a lot of the best in each other, and they would see that you are very close.
That little fairy fire that I've surrounded the place with burns a little
The disco
brighter.
ball, yeah.
Yeah, burns a little brighter each time Callista smiles at me.
Oh my goodness, it's getting a little hot here. That's very sweet. Um, and you get to the end of this song, and you kind of rack your brain as to what to play next, because the people are still clamoring. They're clamoring for more. Um, and as you do, they're kind of going, they enjoyed that song, that much slower, sweeter pace. It allowed them to kind of like, do a bit more drinking, do a bit more chatting. But now that you've kind of finished it, they clearly want something upbeat again. They want something that will get them dancing. They want that fairy fire going around. They want to be back on their Dirk or Wave Runner rave. That's where they want to be. So you start to rack your brain to pick at a song to play. And I need you to make me a charisma saving throw.
A charisma saving throw. Ooh, interesting. Okay. That is an 18 total.
18, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I feel I'm worried about how the session will end if all the good rolls are coming in the beginning.
Yeah, you are rolling pretty damn well. Well, Jen says, well, it's no 25. So yeah, there is that.
Kaluka's insecurity.
Kalika's like, I'm trying. So you just can picture a strayer off in the corner with a drink. Well, it's not a 25, is it? You rack your brains, and you think of a song, and it's it's a well-known it's quite a jaunty tune from Akros, actually. They haven't particularly clamored for anything sea-based at this point, so you're just like, oh, I'll go for Akros is a very military-based city, so I imagine there's plenty of morale-boosting, upbeat songs played in all sorts of taverns and whatnot that could be picked upon. And you pick one from your brain, one that sort of brings you a lot of joy, one that you can think of your father kind of singing as he's like working his way around the house, and your mother is like sort of teasing him and trying to get him to help her do chores, and he's messing around, you know, from when you were younger perhaps, and sort of dancing with her while she's trying to get, you know, she's trying to get things done, she's trying to tidy, and he's just sort of like humming and singing and sort of half tidying up, half messing around with her, and it's like quite a nice memory, so you sort of pull upon that. And once again, as you begin to play, you get probably about a quarter of the way through the song, and all of a sudden, that strange sensation grasps hold of you again. You kind of glance up, and you know, you've been sort of playing these songs for Callista, and you're trying to get the attention of everyone. And just for a moment, you notice, you know, the people, they're enjoying the song. They're not as invested. They're not as interested this time. Callista's still very deep in conversation with Hector, and is barely glancing at you. Not because she doesn't want to, but you feel that flicker of insecurity for a moment. You feel that just, you know, you had cheers just a moment ago, and now it feels like you're not getting that same level of response. And in that insecurity, in that fear that blossoms up within you again, another song cuts off for a moment, the song that you were thinking of. And it is a terrifying dirge of clamoring voices begging you to turn around. And for just a second, the amount of crew members on this ship doubles or triples. There are other people aboard here with you. Faint figures in silhouette and shadow watching. They're the only ones watching you. Everyone else is talking and laughing and having a good time. And they're watching and they're weeping. And you feel it again. I'm frightened. I'm frightened of going here. This place is cursed. This place is dangerous. This place will kill us. These islands, these mists deceive us. These rocks are too sharp. The people you love, you will lose them. The people you've left behind, you will never see them again. And you're frightened with them for just a moment, but you snap yourself out of it and you stop playing mid-song. It's the only way. You cannot grasp onto the memory of the song that you were playing. All that it wants you to play for just a second is this awful, it can't even be called a song. What the noise that would have come out of your bagpipes would have been terrifying to behold. And you stop. You just stop. And you pull yourself out of it. And that gets everyone's attention. And they all kind of look at you. And there's a moment where the voices of everyone buzzing and talking and everything die down, and they look, and everyone is silent watching you for just a second, because it's weird how you just stop. They thought that perhaps you'd got hurt or that something had happened. And they're watching you, and these figures are watching you. The mists seem thicker than ever. And then there's a collective sigh, and the figures are gone. They dissipate into the mists. And you're left with your companions and one crew member. You all right? Do you want to take a break? Have a drink.
Hey, don't worry about it. Even maestros make mistakes once in a while. I'm telling you, it might have been something that Cedric cooked. Don't worry about it. I think I just need to go and, like, you know, do the business. And, like, she just excuses herself.
Mm-hmm.
And
as you say, it might have been something that Cedric cooked. Someone goes, "Oh yeah, where is Cedric?" And someone else goes, "Oh, he's in the kitchen again. He's always in the kitchen. He never comes up here for these things."
And Kalika walks away. She kind of just barely hears that, and walks away. And her first reaction is, of course, to want to talk to Callista. But knowing that, you know, you do need to give people that individual space, especially when they seem to be quite invested in whatever that they're doing. The second person that she would no, usually look for is Onyx, having been brought up in a sort of similar fashion of following order and discipline and just vigorous training as well. But, immediately she realizes that Onyx isn't around. She assumes, okay, maybe they're in their room. And again, if they're in their room, they don't want to be disturbed. So Kalyuka relaxes. Caillou comes and sits next to her, possibly hands her like a bit of a carrot to try and calm her down. Like, just kind of
Caillou
like,
is absolutely, she can sense something's off. You know that. Whereas everyone else seems to just be like, oh, well, she's fine. It's Calliope. And you've managed to do a very good job of convincing everyone almost immediately that everything's okay. But Caillou knows. During that first wave of insecurity and strange feeling, her little nose was twitching, her eyes kept darting up to you. She could sense some uneasiness from you. The moment that you stopped playing, um, she has been sort of pestering at your leg since then, sticking very close. Every so often, she kind of gets up on her hind legs and gives your knee a little nuzzle, to try to. It's almost this kind of like, what's wrong? Like, are you okay? Kind of reassuring, but this question of like, she knows that something isn't right. She doesn't seem to have seen what you have seen, but she knows that there is some energy here that is disturbing your fun and your peace of mind. And that's enough to get her on edge. So she's very on edge. She seems not quite out of it. Callista, for what it's worth, has now finished talking to Hector, but has immediately made her way over to Captain Cascade, and they are deeply embroiled in conversation. Onyx is also deeply embroiled in conversation and some way away, difficult to get to. Everyone else just seems to kind of be relaxed and enjoying the party, and it's difficult to kind of shake that strange feeling of isolation. And I think that if I was to put a word to what this feeling is culminating in, it's a really odd sense of hopelessness that is pervading the heart that you can't quite shake. But it doesn't feel like your hopelessness. It doesn't feel like that's how you're feeling. It feels like that's how something else is feeling, that your insecurities or any negative feelings that you're having this evening is feeding into and connecting with, much in the same way that you connected with that. You wanted to fight Kahara, you wanted to overcome the thing, and you connected with a spirit that also wanted to do the same. It seems that this is what is happening here. There's this connection happening through some magical means that you have no idea how to control, that is allowing these overwhelming thoughts of hopelessness to connect with just your slight moment of insecurity, and just compound it massively is what's happening here. So probably a good idea to kind of remove yourself a little bit, and take
so
stock.
Kalika finds like, this maybe where where the lower crew possibly stays or work at, where the ropes are and the different cartons and stuff would be. She kind of nestles herself in that spot. There's not much space, but that feeling of having these sacks and these boxes surrounding her kind of just slightly reminds her of how it feels when the family gives her a big group hug.
Mhm.
And she feels like that, and she sits there, she pats Caillou, she looks at her bagpipes, and she feels a little afraid because in the last couple of battles she has been relying on this sort of rage to really win or to defeat her opponent. And But this music, even though it's given her so much more joy, it's opening other parts of her that she's never had to really confront before. And as she sits here and looks at the bagpipe, even before that flicker of fear could get to her, even as that insecurity of so many other spirits start to fill her, she looks at the bagpipe and says, I am not her, referring to her younger self. I am who she wants. I am who she's always wanted to be. And feeling that sense of, I have grown, you know? I am not a child that is going to be chased down a hall with voices tormenting her. I am not a child that will be forced to do things that other people have told me to do or said that's my birthright or destiny. I am me. And the people out there, they love me. And feeling a little comforted over there, she pats Caillou in the head and says, worry not, little one. I just, the sea breeze, I'm not used to it just yet. But don't worry, Caillou. All I need to do is remember that I'm strong. And together with all of you, I am even stronger. And maybe these voices, maybe they are just what I used to be. Maybe they're just afraid. And all they need is someone to tell them it's going to be all right. And so, even though I can't see them anymore, I say, there might be great dangers, there might be great perils awaiting us on these isles. But what are heroes if not seeking that? And we will be your heroes. I will make you remember this place in a different way. And she recalls what people had mentioned earlier. And she looks at Caillou and says, well, I don't know why you're such good friends with Cedric now, Caillou. I've seen you've been hopping off to the kitchen in the morning, coming back with a little bit of vegetables around your mouth. I don't know what you've been up to, but like Caillou slaps her on the knee. And she's like, fine, fine. Cedric's a nice goblin. And
As you kind of start to make these like observations out loud, there was this real sense of quiet. um the moment that you mention Cedric's name and you start teasing Caillou, and you move, there's a small yelp from behind you, here in this space with all the boxes and the supplies, and from behind a crate emerges the goblin himself, um, and he's sort of clutching his toe. He's clearly just stubbed it, and he's just ow, 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 and then looks up and he goes, sorry, uh, getting spices.
oh, would you like some help? I can carry more.
Uh, yeah, didn't want to disturb you.
No, 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 of course not. Why are you also alone, Cedric? You're cooking for so many people. You deserve to come and eat with us.
Cedric Chef.
Cedric friend also, right?
Yes. He seems confused. But he kind of, Cedric, your friend?
Would Cedric like to be my friend? I see that you and Caillou have become friends.
Sure. And he kind of looks around a moment, and then he indicates the kind of like spice crate that he was looking at, and it is quite heavy. He probably could have managed it, but it would have been like a bit more of like a slow dragging it across the ground to getting it back to the kitchen, whereas you can just very easily probably pick it up, haul it over your shoulder with no real problem. And he kind of looks at him and he goes, "You okay?
Of
Seem
course.
sad."
It's just things can get overwhelming at times, but it's all right. I feel better that you're here now, Cedric.
Hmm. Need tea. Come. And he kind of grabs Caliuca's hand with his little goblin hand, and he begins to pull Caliuca with. I'm gonna just be real honest, not very much strength. Um,
I purposely kind of like topple a little. Oh, Cedric, you're so strong. You didn't really need my help.
he starts to chuckle. You've never heard Cedric laugh, but it's a very like when someone just really gets into a laugh and you just weren't expecting it. It's like from 0 to 100 real quickly. He's just suddenly like, and then he just kind of pulls you into the kitchen. The kitchen, I should describe. It is probably best described as chaotic order. It like there's this sense of chaos when you walk in there because everything is colorful. There is beautiful bits of fabric and stuff that sort of line the walls and drape down. There's this gorgeous all the walls are painted as well and various different colors. It looks like Cedric has had a go at doing some painting, and it's not great, but it's not bad. And it's the only kind of colorful area of the ship. All the rest of the ship, it's this sort of like slightly purplish wood, hence the name Durkle Wave Runner. But here in Cedric's kitchen, there are beautiful bright colors everywhere. Cedric clearly likes to keep his space vibrant. And it's like almost homely. It really actually for a moment reminds you of being at home, just because it's got this very like homemade feel to it rather than like everywhere is boring and uniform and the same. It feels like he's made it at home, and you can see, there's this organized kitchen. It is clean in here, incredibly clean. There's mess because he's been cooking, but it's organized mess. It's like clearly organized into piles of how it will be cleaned later. And there's a small cubby nearby. It's open, and you can see the curtain is sort of cast aside. This beautiful patchwork curtain, and it's got filled with pillows and blankets inside. So this is clearly where Cedric sleeps. Is just he's turned one store cupboard into his room essentially, but it is just a shelf with a lot of blankets and pillows on top that he kind of snuggled into.
If I look around in a way that when you enter someone's bedroom and you're trying to assess, what sort of person they are, if I look around, do I find anything that I could link akin to a hobby or like a very deep interest? Like maybe they have some hero in another land that they worship, or they're into a lot of books.
You're looking for personality beyond
Yes.
So roll perception for me. Tell me what your passive perception is, just so I can get an idea.
My passive perception is 17. Okay, that's not too bad.
That's pretty good. But what was your perception roll?
That is. Oh, it is a 15.
50. Okay. So, you walk in, and I think that the thing that really overwhelms you, and has always overwhelmed you when you didn't particularly like Cedric, you've been eating Cedric's food. Cedric is the only one on board cooking, so there's no choice really. And there's always been, much to your dismay at the time, Cedric's cooking is delicious. It's got a lot of, and I think that when you come in here, you can really see it. There's a lot of love in Cedric's cooking. That's his hobby. It's not just something he's paid to do or his job. He enjoys being a chef, very, very much so. I will give you one other thing though. Over in this cubby, there is a sort of like what looks to be a painting. It's sort of taped to the wall in a slightly haphazard angle. And it looks like it is. There are three figures on it. One looks to be Cedric. It's got the same kind of like colorful hat on that resembles a chef's hat, but again made out of these patchwork squares of cloth. The two either side are a bit taller. One is very gangly, covered in hair. Looks to be with very, very long arms. Looks to be some form of bugbear. You're pretty sure. And the other one, even taller and larger, taking up most of the painting, in fact, is certainly you will have seen these at the arena for sure, an ogre. This one, however, it's got these kind of huge tusks. The bugbear is wearing like an apron, a stained apron, and this ogre is also wearing kind of something that resembles like a chef's hat or a hat and an apron. They kind of have their arms slung around this team, and they're kind of like squashed in. They're smiling faces. They seem very happy. These three figures together. And Cedric has immediately kind of come into this room. He's abandoned whatever in the middle of the mixture he's making. He's immediately gone about. He starts kind of boiling in a pot some water, and he does take out like a sort of like a pre-made tea mixture and put it in a bag and kind of bag it up ready to stew. But he also adds like a couple of extra ingredients that you've kind of never seen, you can't really identify. He's got a lot of like weird things in here that you've never seen before, or that your mother was quite an avid cook and enjoyed herb craft, so you've seen a lot of like strange ingredients and things. But even a couple of these, there's strange colored spices and things that you're like, I've never ever seen anything like that before. So he's clearly like gone around. He's a bit of a collector in very strange ingredients and knows how to use them, knows his way around them. He starts to steep this tea, and he sort of looks up at you for a moment as you kind of look around, and he goes, ta-da! Welcome! My kitchen.
Oh, this looks wonderful, Cedric. And these two people over here, are they your family? Mentors?
Oh, so you would gesture to the painting. When you gesture to the painting, what is your passive insight?
I think it's insight's 12.
12. Okay. You would see a shift in expression. I think you would definitely pick up on a level of sadness in that expression. And he goes, friends. And then he points to the bugbear, Davy, points to the ogre, Glenn.
Oh, then where are Davy and Glenn?
And he's visibly becoming upset now. You can see this. Not sure. Gone, probably.
Oh, Cedric, I'm so sorry. I really didn't mean to upset you. And like, Caillou gives me like this glare. Like, why would you upset Cedric?
Caillou is giving you a glare like, there are carrots on the line here. What are you doing?
I very clumsily tried to, fix the tea he was making to give him a cup.
It okay. You didn't know. Just I come from place where they live. And our island attacked. I picked up by and kind of gestures upwards towards like where you can hear the music's kind of still going and people are laughing and so and he's obviously kind of gesturing and he's getting upset, so he's finding words more difficult, but you can kind of get the gist of what he's saying. That clearly Cascade picked him up or rescued him from this situation, and he says, lost Davy and Glenn though, not sure if or what happened. Never gone back.
Do you think that they might still be there?
I hope.
You,
We were going to open business together. Davy good with drinks,
Mhm.
and he does like mixing to kind of indicate maybe a brewer or some kind of mixologist. Glenn Baker, good baker, cakes. Uh, and he is happy. It's a painful memory for him, but it's not one that he's not unhappy to talk about or anything like that. He seems to be quite, you've said you're a friend, so now he's like he's okay with sharing it with you. And he says Kaliuka friend, Davy and Glenn, best friends, my best friends. I hope they open business and okay.
I hope so too. Hmm. Where are you from again, Cedric?
Dakra Isles,
Dakar.
my islands, and he kind of indicates what Astraea and Cascade have been doing a lot of work into the fact that the islands like to move around. My islands, whoosh 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 in the mist, never found, attacked by pirate, big ship, Boneheart.
Boneheart. And the captain, does does Cascade know who the captain of
Yes,
that pirate ship is?
Captain Piper.
Captain.
Scary.
Oh. Did he try to hurt you?
He tried to hurt everyone. We were peaceful. We wanted business. People afraid of Dakra Isles. We just wanted a place for people to rest. But he came, he attacked us. Cascade says Captain Piper ghost. Captain Piper not ghost. He not human, but they not ghost. Something and he kind of looks around, and then he goes to his bin, his food waste bin, and he picks out some ingredient that was clearly starting to rot. It had some like mildew or mold on it, and he kind of points at it frantically. Captain Piper, rotting
Inside.
here, and then sort of squishes it and throws it in the bin and goes to wash his hands.
Was the captain looking for anything? Or did he just want to steal?
Not sure. He wouldn't talk to us. Just came, attacked.
Do you hope that you can go back to your island? To your town?
If island reappears, I scared what I will find. But not having answers worse.
I agree. Cedric, if we do go to one of these islands, I will do my best to get Davy and Glenn back to you, if they're out there.
Miss Davy and Glenn, good people.
No, and I know that I can't be a best friend like Davy or Glenn, but how about sharing a story instead? What was your favorite dish that you cooked for them?
And I think he takes a moment and he kind of looks up, and you can see that like the fact that he wants to go and head back, and he knows that he was in the middle of cooking. But I think that you know and he knows they have plenty of food up there. He's keeps himself busy by constantly bringing more, and they'll eat it because they love his cooking. But um, there's no demand for it. No one's he's got plenty of time, and he makes a decision. He kind of like hops up onto a barrel to sit. Um, and kind of pours you both some tea, and he passes it to you, and he says as he kind of passes it to you, Davy's recipe, and gives it to you to try, and it is delicious. By the way, it's like it's very earthy, but it's got this sweetness to it. Not too sweet, but sweet enough that it's this interesting combination of flavors.
I
Um,
think I take a sip, and as I breathe out and go, I say it. While I do so, I cast calm emotions so that at least for the next 10 minutes, Cedric doesn't need to feel that anxiety to have to cook for someone. And he can just relax and we can have this little tea time.
and he is distracted by the kind of like the drinking and the preparation of it, so he doesn't really see you casting it. And you see it visibly in his shoulders relax, his sort of more frantic frame kind of just stops for a moment, and he kind of like settles himself on this barrel, and even though he's talking about quite painful memories, clearly he feels more able to talk about them. In fact, the words come a little bit more thick and fast, and he begins to share stories about various recipes that he's tried with his friends, their biggest failures. These seem to be the stories that he enjoys most. Talking about how when they would, have these big dreams and these big ideas, and sometimes it would go very wrong. And I think actually in this moment it's exactly what Kaliuka needs to hear, because she's had these moments of these like this insecurity, and when she first started playing the bagpipes, it was her big dream to play for audiences, but she was not necessarily very good at it, and there were these moments where she wondered perhaps if she would ever be good at it. And this is exactly the kind of thing that Cedric is talking about, and it has all these relatable stories um, regarding and while he doesn't seem to really talk about having a family as such, a blood family, he doesn't go back that far. He talks about Davy and Glenn as if they are family, they were his family, and it is a very sweet relationship. Some of the personality traits that you get, especially regarding Davy, remind you of your brother Kuroba. Just that sort of like slightly cocky, kind of it'll be fine. Like it'll be fine. It's always Davy's ideas that seem to go very wrong, and then it's Cedric and Glenn that are clearing up the mess. But they had fun doing it. And you talk with Cedric probably quite late into the night. Do you think you return to the party, or do you think you just spend the rest of the time with Cedric?
I think at some point maybe Caillou comes and does like this cat-like thing where she settles down on his lap, and I give her a wink like, yeah, that's my best support animal. And she falls asleep there.
Mhm.
I think I inquire at some point whether he'd like to go up because I tell him, Cedric, I'm not the only friend you have. Everyone up there is your friend too. And friends like to hang out with each other. Friends like to be around each other. Friends don't want the other friend to be working for them all the time. And their bellies are full. They've been laughing for the last couple of hours. But I know that more than anything else, it would cheer them up to see you. They might not be Davy or Glenn, but they're here for you.
I think he kind of like he looks at you and he nods, and then he goes, "Okay, I go up, no food, just talk.
Just fun. Have a drink too, Seth.
You," and he jabs his finger, right against your nose. You rest. You laughing, playing music, but not laughing here. Rest. And Caillou tired.
I know, my little bunny, and then I pick her up and snuggle her a little bit, like, okay, baby, let's go to sleep. And I tell Cedric, have fun, friend. Live a little. Your food is always going to be amazing. And if you'd like, while I'm exploring and you want any nice, fresh, new ingredients, or if I find something that seems good, not rabbit, I'll get it back for you.
All right. So you head to bed. And obviously you have a room that's kind of to yourself because you share it with Caillou. Um, and you and Caillou need a whole bed to yourself.
Sprawl.
Yeah, just I feel like Kaliuka is a starfish sleeper, 100%. So I would say, Kaliuka, considering the night that you've had, it's kind of surprising, I think, even to you, how quickly sleep finds you. Because it's been a bit of an unsettled night. And I think as you kind of settle into bed, you wonder if these spirits that you saw, you're not connected to them anymore in the way that you were, but you wonder if they're still here, if they're still watching. And as frightening as it was listening to their wails and terrified screams and desperate pleas for you to turn around and go home to play their song of death and destruction, as terrifying as that was, you can't help but feel what they were trying to do had good intentions. They were not trying to disrupt your evening. They were just trying to warn you. They were frightened and they see a ship advancing in on these mists that they know in their mind, because that's all they know, will only spell destruction and disaster. And they have placed themselves here, not allowed themselves to move on, but stayed in this realm to try to warn travelers. And most travelers probably don't have the connection that you seem to have found them having. So their pleas always fall on deaf ears. And that in itself is hopeless. So you begin to wonder if they're here still. And for just a moment, the sort of lantern by your bedside flickers, almost as if in acknowledgement that they are. And then sleep finds you. It
I
is
think
not.
before I go to sleep, I
Yeah.
would tell them, I would not call them spirits, I wouldn't call them evil. I will call them friends. And I'll say, friends, you have shown me your fear, you have shown me your worry. How about now? You show me what you hope for.
Kaliuka just makes me so. It just makes me so. Okay, so and I think it's at that moment the maybe the flame was sort of frantically flicking next to you, and it settles down. It becomes this sort of like very slow, small flame, and you find that sleep finds you. Um, it's not a comforting, deep, and restful sleep, though. The threads and the sort of these spirits that you saw floating in the mist, watching you, they seem to be almost, they were part of the mist itself, and they seem to be made up of this strange, like thread-like substance. Very close to like a spider's web, I guess, in that kind of consistency and that the way that it could be carried on the wind. And you see them, and you feel almost as if they kind of close and weave around you for a while, creating a sort of cocoon, intertwining tighter and tighter until you have to kind of fight and break out of it, and you begin to claw and tear, and you wake again, sort of, in your bed, back at home, back in Akros. It is dark. Even the moon's light that normally shines through your window is dull. You aren't alone, though. In the strangest way, the house feels empty. It doesn't feel like there's anyone home, and yet you can hear a noise from a nearby room. It's the sound of metal clashing upon metal, frustrated shouts, teasing, slightly affectionate laughter. And for now, we will take a break and we will return in our second half. We're going to take about a 10-15 minute break, everyone. We won't be very long. And yeah, we will be back shortly as we enter Kaliuka's dream and we find out what awaits her there. So if you have joined us this far, thank you so much. We really appreciate your company and your support and all of your messages in chat. And we will be back soon. Bye, everyone. Hello, everyone. We are. That was a really loud clap. We did not mean to do that. We're back. We're back with the second half of Kalyuka's episode of Therosian Odyssey, Isles of Uncertainty, season 3. We're in like a season 3 prologue state where we're getting everyone a solo session and everyone gets to live in their character's feels a little bit. And so far, Kumi has been taking full advantage of this and has absolutely been living in Kalyuka's feels and mine. And I can't, like, just every single thing that comes out of your mouth just makes me want to be like, oh. But just before the break, we had a nice party, sort of. Let's not call it nice. Let's call it an interesting party experience that ended in quite a nice moment. A little bit of more of an official, I think, reconciliation between Kalyuka and Cedric. There had been a little bit of conversation, a little one, but not much. It was mostly ended in Kalyuka going, "Oh, I feel kind of bad now," and that was it. But now I think that there's some official friendship growing, which is quite nice. And then you went to sleep, and you have just woken up. You're not on the boat anymore. You're not on the Durkle Wave Runner, and you don't even feel like you're quite awake. It's that kind of, you know, when you had a nap that is like the wrong length of nap, and it just completely messes with you, and you just kind of wake up and you're like, am I asleep still or am I awake? There's a little bit of that going on. Kalyuka's probably feeling a little bit foggy, a little bit odd. She's at home. She recognizes her surroundings. She's in her room, in fact, at home, and she's woken up in her bed. Her house is normally a buzz of activity almost all the time because she's got quite a large family, and a noisy family, I would say. They might not all play the bagpipes, but they make themselves heard in other ways. But it's silent here, save for this. It feels faint, and yet only a few rooms away at the same time. Sound of metal upon metal. It's clashing. There's like grunts. It's clearly you would recognize the noise. In fact, actually, you've grown up around this noise. It is the sound of sparring. Okay, it's the sound of when two people are going at it in battle. Yeah, I feel like someone's going to be like, I didn't know where that sentence was going to end there. In battle. And there's like that frustrated grunting and that way that people kind of like make little digs and mocking jibes at each other to try to throw the other person off. You can hear that very faintly. It's almost got this muffled quality to it, so it's almost impossible to discern any actual words. But you can hear it. It's in the same house as you. It's the only thing you can hear. Otherwise, it is completely dark here. It is, and it's this real sense that the house is in fact empty. And that in itself is strange, a little sinister, a little eerie. But there is this noise. So, what would you like to do?
A bit of a detour, but I just realized you're wearing a Spirited Away shirt, and I was like, oh my
I am wearing a Studio Ghibli shirt. So, pause the game. This is Little Winnie Totoro. We've got Cat
so
Boss here.
cute.
Howl, Princess
Oh,
Mononoke,
I didn't
and
see you.
Wolf. Yeah, Ponyo, Spirited Away, and Kiki's Delivery Service. I got the whole, no, not the whole damn lot because there's been other films, but I've got a good ensemble. Oh yeah, and there's, I think that's, yeah, I think that's the Haku. I think it's Haku in the background.
Oh, Haku in the background. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw No
yes.
Face speak up, and I was like, oh, you were just like, what are you going to do? And suddenly No Faces come, and I was like, okay.
What are you gonna do?
I think, even though Kalyuka feels like this is definitely, she doesn't know whether this is a dream or some sort of intense vision. I think she doesn't worry too much about it because she hasn't been home in so long. And the last time she left, it was in good spirits. And she kind of had this sort of redemption arc with her dad, and he encouraged her instead of demotivating her to leave. And primarily because of the wonderful friends she brought over to see her whole family. And I think this time she gets up, hearing those sounds, even though it's quieter. She goes into what her morning routine had been for the longest time growing up, getting up, doing stretches, cleaning her face, her mouth, just sleeking back her hair with some water, flexing, releasing any sort of stiffness, warming up her body a little, and searching in the voices in the other room if one of them sounds like her brother.
Mhm.
Because even though she can't make a distinct understanding of whether it's him or not, she's already going through a couple of digs she could like deliver at him. And, she's just kind of like, yeah. Oh, Kiroba thinks he's going to. Kiroba thinks he's going to like put me down again today. I'm going to sweep him off his feet again. She just bursts open
I
the door.
I think you burst open the door, and there's this real sense of um maybe Kaluka is slightly in denial. This is clearly a strange situation, but she's gone, I'm home, and that's fine. And she's not quite like it's not like she's kind of gone into this like many people kind of approach these situations where they're like, well, like head towards the noise cautiously. Not our Kalyuka. No, she's like, well, let me just wash my face. Let me just stretch out the old muscles. That's probably a good thing. It's a sense of preparedness, because if this is a dream and it turns dangerous, well, you've stretched out and you've limbered up and you're ready for battle. And if it turns out that you really are home, then great, you've kind of prepared yourself and you've done your morning routine. And if it turns out to be just a dream, well, the dream gets to last a little longer. Who cares? So you burst open the doors, and as you do, I think you've been kind of like getting into this routine. You did definitely hear at one point a sound of laughter. Now, you might not be able to make out any words or any sense of voice enough to figure out who this is, but that laughter, you would recognize your brother's laughter anywhere. And that is definitely the sound of Kuroba laughing. And there's a sense of comfort in that. It doesn't even sound like something trying to pretend to be your brother. It is your brother. It is a memory of your brother.
And it's like, she teases because in her head, like, she makes this visible, like, gah face, like, because they always tease him about the way he laughs. It's this weird, sort of like really loud laughter that has like these stunted pauses in between. And they're
that
always.
kind of proper, like,
Yeah.
hearty
And
laughter.
they're constantly teasing him that he'll never get a partner with a laugh like that.
I knew you were gonna say that. Okay, so you throw open the door, and you can hear now much louder the sound clashing metal. What strikes you? You can hear it a bit better. It's less muffled now. It is definitely your brother's voice. It's difficult to pick up on the words. It is coming from your house. Is quite large. It's a large Akroan house, and the reason why is not just because you are a large family. In fact, Akroan houses are quite uniform and strict in the way, as is most of Akros, in the way everything is organized. And while there is in the sort of the center at the hilltop, there is the colophon where the nobility live. There is a group called the Lectoi, which they're not nobles, but not nobles by blood, but they are almost kind of treated like nobility or have some kind of celebrity status within the city because they have done something of worth, notable contribution to the city. And because your family are such a famed gladiator troupe, they have like performed again and again in Eris's games. They have won multiple bouts. You in the eyes of a city that dedicates itself to a warrior's prowess. They have done their due diligence. They are you would be noticed in the city if you're walking around. You would be known, and it's not just because of your Goliath heritage. It's because you would be known as this troop of very, very strong, especially your father and your brother, who is now sort of he's been at this career himself for a while, and he has also made his own name and made his own kind of reputation. But your father especially has kind of gained this amazing reputation, and through it has been sort of gifted a large house in this area.
I'm so proud of my family, guys.
Yeah, and I think it might not even been your father. This is a generational thing, so it could even have been maybe your grandfather or a great grandfather that was gifted this house, and so now this is where you live, and you've kind of dedicated your lives to being this sort of family gladiator troop, and that's the generation. It's the family business, but you're not a shop. You're an entertainment source, and your house, large, also has what you would expect a gladiator's. If you're not a shop, you don't have a shop front. Instead, you have like a sort of like almost like a dojo that's kind of situated. It's an indoor kind of like sparring arena, essentially, a small one. You have the courtyard outside, and you're always welcome in the sort of like the drilling yards and things like that to practice. But you have this sort of indoor like dojo and practice space, and you kind of, I think that Killjoy and Kuroba normally use it is this sort of like, it's where they go to. Killjoy, your father, is very religious. He's a very pious man, and he goes to kind of almost have like a solo practice a lot, almost a sort of meditation where he will commune with the gods as he kind of practices and fights, and it's his way of worshipping them. And it's where you do a lot of like your training is in this indoor bit, because you don't want to spoil the fun. If you go out and do it in the courtyard all the time, no one is paying to see you practice out there. So you need this sort of enclosed indoor space to practice, so that when people are watching you, it's because they've paid to watch you. And you can hear this sound of clashing metal coming from in there. What you can also hear is that this is definitely Kuroba laughing and kind of clashing. And you might have thought at first, oh, he's sparring with your father. But then you recognize the voice. It is your voice in there. You can hear it is you that is practicing with Kuroba, not your father, or any of your other family members. And other than that, all around, the kind of like the doors that lead to your siblings' rooms, and the one that kind of leads, the stairway that leads downstairs, dark, quiet, empty, silent. This is the only place that has something happening. And I think that it is here, Kaliuka, that it hits you. You're not actually home. You are pulled into some kind of, it's not even a dream, because you have far too much control over your own actions for this to be a dream. This is something, if you're thinking about your very religious father, this is something more divine. This is something someone is doing. You're not sure who. Could be, you've had a chat with Iroas before. Perhaps it's him that is trying to communicate with you, or Perforos, who also seems to have called to your heart with his creativity. Perhaps he is trying to show you something. You're not sure. But inside this practice room is not going to be just your brother waiting for a chat.
I think Kalika, any other time, if she hadn't met the Durkle Wave Riders, she would have just run in and demanded an explanation without really assessing the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, she thinks of what her friends would have done. Like Onyx, she steadies herself. She breathes in deep and doesn't let herself get anxious or worried. Like Callista, she tries to hope that there's a sign that this isn't something vengeful, that this could be perhaps a prophecy or some message that is being said to her. Like Astrea and Eva, she assesses the situation, looks around for clues. Doing so, she realizes Kiroba's voice is much younger than she remembers.
Mm-hmm.
She
It
looks
is.
around and notices the buildings. Even though at first glance it just looked like home, she notices how the paint is a little fresher. There are less cracks. The spots that Kay and Ken used to run around and play, and the things that happened to them as children, whether they would have fallen over a brick or just drawn their heights on a wall, all those don't exist anymore. And she realizes perhaps this is a time they were just born. Maybe they were really young at this point. I think more than being afraid of anything else, she is afraid of seeing her younger self. It's someone
Mm-hmm.
that she has left behind. It's someone that she has grown from, and now she views that side of her to be just a child. And it worries her that this image that she's made up of herself growing up won't be the image she sees when she goes there. She's worried that the things that her father said, that she's too stubborn, that she's not good at following through on her practices, that Kiroba has said that she's not serious enough to practice the routines, and she's always believed it to be like they're just too strict with me. But to go there and be to see that maybe she actually is bad, and that it wasn't just stubbornness, it was just a lack of skill, is something she's a little concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
But she moves ahead. And instead of that, that vigorous like rumble of like energy of going to go tease her brother and have this little bit of a duel with him, she walks cautiously now. She waits and listens. At a time where she would have run away from any whispers in such dark corridors, she waits for the voices to talk to her.
Mm-hmm.
And as she approaches that little auditorium where they're practicing and looks in, she holds her breath and has a peek at the younger Kaluka with much longer hair tied up in like a high ponytail and also not pink in color, but the darker shade of black, the same as the rest of her family. And
I think, yeah.
I think the first thing she thinks when she looks at is like, "Wow, I'm so dorky."
And I think it's interesting looking in, as you kind of peer, what you end up going into this sort of, it's almost like a narrower corridor, and to look into this dojo is like a, it's a door, but it's a quite a it's a translucent door. You can see in, and there's a sort of crack where it's slightly ajar, and you can look inside. The other side of it, the other side of this corridor, is a large window that looks out, and it's a beautiful view actually from that window. Normally, it's probably one of your favorite views to go, and quite often it's where a lot of your deep introspective family chats end up happening. Is you go and you're stood watching over the city through this window and sort of drinking some tea or something, and just admiring and having a chat with your mother about something, or it's a sacred spot within your family, this windowsill, because it's that place where no one's ever said it out loud, but it's the place where if someone is by the windowsill, it means they're not in the mood to be teased or japed at or anything like that. They need, whenever you're by there and Hiroba comes to you, he will never tease you, or he will only be a big brother, supportive big brother. And it's the same the other way around. And that's just how it is. It's like this weird windowsill of understanding where everyone goes, they're not in a good headspace, they're looking over the city, they're seeking reflection. If I approach them, I need to do so from a place of wanting to support and help and understand. And the windowsill of understanding, wondrous item, rare. It was installed. Some maid conjured it up. You look out of this window now, and you're taken aback for a moment by the view. It is the view of the city. It's a gorgeous view of the city, and you know that the colophon sort of sits just off. If you kind of lean your head out and look, you'd be able to see the colophon and the nix behind it, above it in the sky. But right now the sky is this very strange color. The moon is large and glowing, but it's glowing almost this sort of pinky red, and the sky itself is also this sort of darker shade of maroon. What's more, the house is completely surrounded by, once more, these strange wisps of floating spiritual thread. That's what it looks like. It looks like thread braided together until at the end fraying, as if something has snapped it off. And this is what's left of them. And they float all around the house, hundreds, thousands maybe, of these very small but very visible remnants of something, some magic, some old magic that you have very recently discovered that you can tap into. And they glide by peacefully. They seem not to know you're there. You seem not bothered by anything that they have to say or do, but they are there. They're present. You turn towards the dojo. We'll call it the dojo. The bouting, the sparring arena. And inside you can see sort of these shrines that have been set up by your father to various gods. A huge one to Iroas in the center, who he reveres beyond anything. And Akros does believe very well in Perforos as well. The volcano that is nearby is said to be Perforos's forge. And so in order to try to protect themselves from anything that could be considered Perforos's wrath, aka a volcano erupting, the Acroans are very, very devout to Perforos also. So there is a shrine set up to Perforos, and one that perhaps others might not expect to see here, but does play a huge part in your family's teachings, and especially for your mother, I think. A shrine to Karametra, who is the goddess of domestic life and also to family, parenthood. It's something that is very important to all of you. And even though this is considered your father's space, in a lot of ways, he has this big shrine set up. And he always fills this sort of small pot next to it with some of your mother's favorite flowers, because family is important to him too. And you kind of look upon it for a moment and it catches your eye, and you remember this moment of reconciliation with your father, and you think to yourself, how could I have forgotten that? How could I have forgotten that family is important to him? And then your eyes turn towards your sparring with your brother as your younger self, and your heart sinks, because you remember this sparring match very, very well. You remember it was the first time that you felt that magic swell up within you, and you can see the look on your face, and you see how angry you are. And even to this day, maybe you don't know why you were so angry, but you could feel it back then. So much anger and hurt inside you that bubbled and bubbled and brew. And it's almost like you're no longer looking in. You're looking out of the eyes of your former self. And you're sparring and sparring. And your brother is, you're not stood by the window of reflection. So in this almost oblivious manner, he is doing what he usually does best. He's trying to get the best out of you in this match. And he's trying to poke the bear, as it were.
I think I distinctly see in this sort of half and half how, while like the younger Kalyuka is like, agitated that she's missing every hit on him, that he's able to evade each step, that he's like, able to hit her more times than she can actually fight back. But the older one, me right now, I notice how he's actually like teaching her
Mm-hmm.
that this guard is open or you could be attacked here. Every blow that he hits her is not with any malice. It's not even with like true, not even like an ego strike. It's just him teaching her how to defend herself better. But she can see how the younger Kalyuka is reacting, because every strike that she's trying to take is to try and hurt her brother, because
Mm-hmm.
she's furious with him. And I wonder what hurt her so much.
Well, so as you watch, there's this sense of I think that she's what you feel like you're. You know what? I'm going to get you to roll an insight check on yourself. That's what I'm going to get you.
I've forgotten why I was so angry.
Why was I so mad?
I know. I mean, life's not that bad. My insight is really poor. Oh, okay. It's what? What? Oh my god! I rolled an 18 plus 2. It just shifted the last second. Okay,
Very
that's a
good.
20.
Very good. So unnatural 20. Okay, so you watch this sparring match, and it feels almost like at moments you feel like you're in the moment again, and at moments you're pulled back, but it's not a disconcerting feeling. It flows in and out, and sometimes you are by this door observing, and sometimes you are inside your own body as you try to get back in the headspace of your younger self, because you have changed so much since then. And you watch as your brother, and he always has a slightly cocksure smile. He kind of does. To others, he comes across as very stoic, a little like Onyx, actually. But then when you get to know Onyx, she does have a sense of humor. She has a smile. She has a sort of air of confidence around her. And the same is true of your brother. He's very stoic and he's very serious, and it is the way that Killjoy has raised him to be. Because in a lot of settings, when you go out, you have to be very proud of your family's tradition and your family's legacy and honor, and that's the Acroan way, not just the way of your family. But in this moment, when it's just the two of you, that kind of like sense of humor that he has, that he keeps locked so tight from most of the world, comes out in full force. And your younger self sort of jabs hard, and he sort of knocks it away, and he goes, nope, again. And he even at one point, you're trying to get faster and faster, and at one point he goes, are you getting slower?
Oh, big brother.
You can feel this agitation building inside her, and it's a lot of the way he says things to her, they come from this place of trying to teach, but there's almost this sense of like, Kalyuka has always felt the pressure and the weight of her family's legacy, and her father especially, her father's eyes upon her. He regards his son as his great prodigy, and she wants him to regard her in the same way. But she's beginning to feel like it's not through fighting that she wants him to do that. And this is where this conflict within Kaliuka is beginning to rise, because she does like fighting. She enjoys it, but she feels like all it brings out in her is rage and negative feeling. And she's not as good as Kuroba. And if she can't be as good as Kuroba, then what's the point of doing it at all? She wants to find something that she's good at that the rest of her family can't do, so she can create her own legacy and her own sense of purpose, but still make her family proud. That bit's really important. And there's this growing realization, in at least in young Kaliuka's mind. Perhaps she doesn't feel that way now, but certainly back then there's this growing realization that so much of their life is centered around combat and this gladiator business, that she thinks she cannot have both. She thinks she must either always live in her brother's shadow, and whether it's his fault or not, he's been trained well. He was trained by their father, who is the best, and he will succeed in being the best. But there's also this sense of that he won't be proud of me unless I get good at only this skill. Nothing else will do. Even if I found something else that I was amazing at, it's not being a gladiator, and so it won't be enough. And as much as he's trying to help her, the things that he's saying are only drilling that into her head. He makes comments about sloppy work, your father wouldn't like that, as he fights with her. And father taught you better than that. But there's a sense of, as you watch, he can sense that he knows his sister well, and he can sense there's something in her that is holding her back. In fact, he says it multiple times. You're holding something back. What is it? What's wrong? And it's building and building and building, this aggression, this frustration, this overwhelming feeling of when you feel overstimulated and you just want to scream, and she's trying to pull that back and just focus, but it's really, really hard. And she's getting more and more tired. And she knows what's about to happen. As this really begins to bubble over, at that point, the dojo doors slide open, and your little sister and little brother come running in. They're halfway through a game. They've got some sticks they're smacking each other with. They're yelling at the top of their voices in true dramatic family interruption fashion. And your brother takes it good-naturedly. He continues his work with you, his sparring work with you, as your little brother, Ken, goes racing towards you, charging with a screaming at the top of his voice, as if he's taken you by surprise and he's going to take you down, the great enemy. And Kuroba says, we're not playing in here, we're sparring, safety, get back. And he tries to push his siblings back. And it is at this point that for young Kaliuka, everything becomes far too overwhelming, and it all spills out into this, for the first time ever, huge, it feels huge, burst of chaotic energy. Some energy comes slashing out of her and jagging in every direction of the dojo, and she screams loudly at the top of her voice as she just lets out this feeling that's been building, and it heads straight towards the door, straight towards the window, and one small part of it flickers straight towards her younger brother. And in this almost unnatural display of reflex, her older brother sees and instinctively reacts, pushes her young brother out the way, and gets hit in the shoulder by some coarse fizzle of magic that she's not seen respond this way. She has some magic ability. It comes from her mother, and they know that, but she's never seen it do this. She's always been able to control it. And it hits him. Your parents, are not far behind. They come racing in. Killjoy demands to know what happened as your youngest brother begins to cry in fear. He is only 4 years old, after all. And he looks at you, and there's some real resentment for a moment flickers inside you in the fact that he looks to you first. He knows for some reason, that you're to blame out of everyone. He looks at you to say, what happened here? Because he somehow knows you are the person that caused this. And before you can say anything, Kiroba says, it was me. I was not careful with my weapon and I almost hit Ken. I have hurt myself, but I'm fine. I'm fine. And he gets himself up. And your father does not seem satisfied with this answer. Go on. What were you going to say?
Seeing, I remember the scene. I remember that this, I think, was this led to maybe one of the first times that I actually ran away from home and stayed the night out. But this memory, I remember how I felt at this moment, but I think at every memory of mine has just filled with so much anger at this moment. But looking at it now, looking at this younger me, I look at the things that my family might have missed out at that time. The way that um, Kiroba kept edging me on and kept saying, like, what is it that you're afraid of? What is it that you're keeping to yourself? And with every strike that she drives onto him, she misses her younger two siblings coming in. And I see, I've forgotten how young they were. I see how I hit him, and with every strike, I say, I don't want to fight anymore. And with that fight, it hits him, and the anymore just fizzles out, and the shock she sees at that moment. She sees it hit him, she's stunned, and removed from that state that she's in by Ken's voice. She sees how Kay quickly rushes over and holds her twin and thinks, wow, I think, wow, even at the age of 4, Kay's so much like mom.
Mm-hmm.
I look at myself and the way that I look horrified at my brother, the way he like gives me this look that is always meant to say, control yourself. I see dad and mom come in and I'm too stunned to even tell them anything. And when he covers up, I see that look that goes through my face where it's a love for my brother that quickly turns into annoyance. Look, this and not the stubbornness that you didn't need to cover up for me. I knew that they would like scold me, but you didn't need to cover up for me. And when Papa says that, she knows that she can see how the younger Cleoca is conflicted between wanting to say sorry to her brother and having to reply to her father. And in that moment, she does what would now, when I look at myself, I think is very foolish. She just walks out and says, it's all your fault, and just walks out of there. And now, when I look at this, I think it's okay to make mistakes. It would have been all right if I said, I'm sorry, even if he, you know, belittled me at that time, and if dad had belittled me at that time. What was important was knowing, letting Ken know at that moment that if he were to get hurt, I'd still be there for him, even if I was the one that unwittingly did it. I could have apologized to my brother and said, yes, I do not have control over my powers. I do not want to have control over these powers because I don't want to fight anymore. I don't want to be you. Ken might want to be you. Kay might want to be like mom, but I just want to be myself. All these things that I could have said, looking at this way, looking from this windowsill where everything was, it's always accepted if you were around that corner. I wonder if it's being here that makes me feel this way or having grown older. But looking inside, I see that it was still my family. It was still my family there with me. And even if they sounded like they were annoyed at me, it was just their way of showing that they were concerned.
Yeah.
And I think I follow my younger self wherever she's going.
Hmm. I think as your younger self walks past you and you begin to follow these thoughts going through your head, you do notice one more thing that only comes to your attention because of what you know now and what you know about some of the powers that you have awakened within yourself. And it is that as you had been getting this growing feeling of anger and frustration within you, and what you can hear now, there are whispers surrounding Aliuka, your younger self. They are the voices of other spirits, other people. Same sensation given as when you connected with that ship captain or those souls that were so frightened for you to come to the Dakra Isles. Just this evening just gone. It's the same sensation as them. What you had always thought as your younger self were those little voices in the back of your mind telling you, oh, this is what dad is going to say to you if you fail at this, or this is how disappointed mum is going to be with you if you fail at this. They were never actually voices replicating your family members or saying things that your family members had ever actually said or even thought. They were the voices of spirits trying to connect with you, trying to feed on the emotions that you were feeling at the time because they had the same emotions. The whispers you hear are a mother arguing with her son from ages past, or an uncle angry at his niece, a teacher mad at his pupil. But it is not your family. They are just people that once lived, that no longer live, that had an emotion that they couldn't let go of. And they were trying to find a conduit to let that frustration out, just as you did when you let that magic out. Somehow those things are connected. And you're not 100% sure how. But those things, that wild surge of magic that you get sometimes when your rage reaches capacity or your emotions spill over and you can't take it anymore and you can't control, that thing that happens is something to do with the whispers, the spirits that you sometimes have been able to connect with. It's all linked together. And you follow your younger self. She storms down the hallway, downstairs, into the kitchen, and throws the doors open into the kitchen. And as she does, you're hit with light, as if it's daytime. And you remember this moment as well. Suddenly, the house feels lighter, it's happier, and it is the middle of the day. It's no longer nighttime here in your household. And inside is your younger self, but older now, with the mop of pink hair this time, and certainly shorter. And your two younger siblings, Kay and Ken, are sat on the kitchen floor, watching you, and you have your very first set of bagpipes held in your hand, and you're practicing. And you remember this too. You recognize the song that you are attempting to play, and now that you listen back, you can hear you were making a few mistakes. Perhaps you did not want to hear it back then, but you can hear it now. Your musician's ear has let's say it's got better. And You are listening to it now, and you can hear those few mistakes, but your two siblings are watching you, and they're delighted. And you recognize the song. It is a song that is played often during Karametra's month.
Mhm.
It is a family. There is a festival or sort of celebration day coming up that kind of gives everyone a day off. It's like a bank holiday kind of vibe, and it comes up every so often, and it is to celebrate parenthood. And it is in honor of Karametra. And that day is coming up. It's only a few weeks away. And you have been practicing on this bagpipes because this is going to be the grand unveiling, right? This is going to be the moment where you show your parents, this is what my passion is. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm good at. Listening back, there could be some improvement. But this
I
is where your
definitely.
heart is happy. And it's such a change of vibe from just a moment ago when everything was so angry and tense. And you can hear more whispers. You can hear these happy sort of like moments kind of feeding into the music. And at those moments, you play beautifully. And then it's like you try to focus on reaching out to that to get more of that. And in the process, forget to play the instrument and hit a dud note. So you're still practicing, and your two siblings are excited, and they're just like clapping and laughing, and
I
they seem
remember this. I remember this moment. I remember how right before this, Kenkin and Kai had gone around procuring as many ever musical instruments as they could. And I see them littered out in the back. There's a flute, there are some drums, there's like a trumpet, all these sort of things. And I remember the conversation I had with them where I was like, no, 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 this is not loud enough. It needs to be louder. It needs to reach the heavens. It needs to get Kalametra to hear us so that she can acknowledge the love we have for our parents. And with each one, they'd hand me the flute, and we were like, oh, pathetic, so slow, so low. And then, like goes at the violin, not too many strings, too much to do, my
I
fingers
used
hurt.
to play the flute, so I was like, oh.
Oh, my mom used to play the flute too.
But you're right, not on the same level as bagpipes when it comes
Yeah.
to noise
And
production. No.
And it took both of them to actually carry the bagpipes and hand it to me. And I was like, oh, this could work. And this was like maybe perhaps like a week or two ago where they had found this for me. And they've been coming with me secretly now. Like anytime Crowbar goes like, it's time to train, we just go, okay, and sneak off here instead to practice.
Yeah.
And it's been really cute because both of them are acting like a little choir group where they stand straight and tall, and I'm like, put your chest out stronger and now sing at the top of your voice, match it with the bagpipes, and we prepared this tune that we definitely know our mother would love, but if it could get dad to smile as well, now that would be successful.
And as they're listening, they've got this big smiles on their faces. You know that your mother and father are not home as you are practicing right now. They don't know that you have been practicing on this instrument. It's supposed to be a big surprise, right? So they have no idea. And Karoba also is in the dark. This is a secret that you have shared with your younger siblings because you know they'll understand. And your older sibling still seems very set upon you being a great warrior, just like your father. So he seems to be trying to urge you to do more and more practice than anything. But as you practice, your younger sister, she smiles as you finish the tune, and she says, "Oh, you're getting so good. You could probably play at my wedding." And then your younger brother goes, who are you gonna marry? Or in fact, who's gonna marry you? And she's like, I'm going to marry one of the generals when I'm older. Maybe it'll be Nicanos, maybe it'll be Cassian. And then your younger brother's just like, there's no way that any general is ever gonna want to marry you. they're going to be too busy training me to fight. And he grabs like the nearest broom and he starts like kind of like whacking at her, and she's like, get off, like, and getting really annoyed at him. And they're having this kind of conversation, and it's then as you're, you know, younger you is sort of watching their antics and laughing and kind of getting ready to get the thing going. You go to blow, and then you see standing watching from the doorway is your older brother Kuroba, and he kind of looks at young Kaliuka straight in the eye and he says, well, well, well. And he kind of like cracks his knuckles. What have we got here?
I drown out the rest of his voice with my bagpipes.
And he kind of immediately jumps, and he's just like this. And you get to kind of the end of the first verse, and they're like, Kuroba, he's practicing, almost as if he's now in on it. And he kind of looks at young Khalif and he's like, you should be training. Have you told father about this? He's not going to be pleased. You understand that, right?
Maybe one day he can stop being a killjoy, you know.
Oh, haha, very funny. Like he hasn't heard that one before.
Oh, come on, Kuroba. Like, father's used to being entertained all the time with swords and blades and all this. Let me play him a song for once.
Oh, this is what this is? You're gonna play him a song?
I'm getting pretty good at it. Ask Ken.
And Ken's like, she's gonna play in 2 weeks' time when we have our great big feast for Karametra. And he kind of looks and he goes, and you say you've been practicing.
Now, to an unprofessional ear that's not appreciative of musical talents, I know it can sound a little bad, but I am improving. I only started 2 weeks ago.
And what do you think the father will have to say if I tell him you've not been coming to your training sessions?
Well, I wouldn't be able to hear him, so I don't think that will be a problem.
Well, let me tell you, he's not going to be happy. And then Ken and Kate are immediately like, no, you can't tell him. It's supposed to be a surprise. Kuroba, please, come on. Just let him do this thing. He's just really happy. And I think, like, something that you would be able to appreciate watching this again that you maybe had not appreciated when you were younger. You just see this sort of, like, slightly cocky, older brother who's just caught his slightly younger sister in the act of doing something that she is not supposed to be doing, and he's enjoying it because he knows that he's going to be able to use some form of blackmail and bribery to get him to keep this a secret. But you can already see, now that you're older, the conviction in his eyes. He is not going to tell your father. He was never going to tell your father because he wanted that to be something that was yours, because it's the first time that he's seen you light up in this way for a very long time, since you were children. And your relationship with Kuroba has always been very similar to the way that Ken and Kai are with each other. Just this kind of like very back and forth bantery, but also this connection between the two of you because you grew up together. He's, you know, only a couple of years older than you, whereas Ken are quite a bit younger than you, and he's always been very protective of you, and he's always been very affectionate towards you when you're not bickering and arguing. So I think that, like, what you would see in Kuroba's like sort of stance is just this, like, you know that he's always got your back, really. You know that now. You can appreciate that now. But back then there might have been this fear, the moment, you know, coming out with this, just like, oh well, I won't be able to hear, it'll be fine. But in the moment there was this sort of like heart jump moment of like, oh, Kuroba's gonna dog me in, I'm gonna be in trouble, I'm not gonna be good enough at it. And he's been teasing her about how bad it is, the playing, but he kind of looks, and you see him make the decision to stop teasing her for a moment. Well, I suppose if you do a little bit more practicing, maybe you will be able to get half the song out without sending everyone mad at the sound of it. But just so you're warned, Father will still expect you to train. If this is to be something, it needs to be alongside everything else. You know that, don't you?
Okay, fine. If I promise to start coming back to morning practice, will you not tell father about this for the next 2 weeks and maybe after that as well?
Oh, so it's a negotiation. Okay, let's negotiate.
I will clean the training mats for a month.
A month, Kaliuka, come on. You need to do at least 2 months. And in return, half of our training sessions are training sessions, half of our training sessions are practicing this very loud instrument. Perhaps you could start with learning how to play it more quietly.
I spit on my hand and put it out there.
He no hesitation. He spits on his hand and shakes it.
Deal. I can
Deal.
see, like, in the corner of my eye, the twins do the same to each other as well.
And also, I think Kay goes, Kaliuka, you showed your desperation. I think you could have got it down to a month and a half, personally.
It's okay. Sometimes you need to let them win.
Yeah. Kirova says, "Absolutely, please let me win." And then he off he goes. And it's some really nice moments with your family and your sibling. It's nice to kind of indulge in these memories. And as you do, the back door to the kitchen opens slowly, and outside you can still see, even though it seems like it's sunny in here, you can still see this red sky. You can see these spirits or these threads floating around, and they seem almost to be beckoning you outside now. Do you go?
I do, because I think what I realized standing here and seeing these spirits and knowing more about them is they don't seem to be just moving around. They seem to be looking for a ear to listen, that'll listen to them. And I realized that so long I was just driving them away and it felt like whatever they were saying was repetitive, but maybe they were just repeating it because they wanted to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, I go out and I look at these spirits because they're not just spirits, are they? They're actually my family. I might have never met them, but somewhere up in that bloodline were many of the ones that are here.
Yeah.
Even the others surrounding them were perhaps people that generations of my family knew at different points of their lives. And instead of running away, I said, I don't have my bagpipes on me. And I look back at the one that younger Kalyuka has. And instead, I said, look up at the spirits and start to hum a calming tune. One that I usually use when I cast calm emotions. Here, even though I feel like I can't cast any spells, I want to use the same sort of music I know has helped me give some sort of healing magic.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I sing to them.
All right. So you begin to walk towards the back door of the kitchen, and the walk from where you're standing to the back door feels longer than you have ever pictured it feeling. It's like the sort of tableau of your family laughing and joking and having this kind of negotiation and moment almost melts behind you, and you feel calm as you begin to hum this song. You remember the aftermath of that moment, this hopeful moment that you had where you felt like you'd found your calling and you were going to perform at this dinner and it was going to be wonderful. And to begin with, when you had performed, because you did perform, your father had seemed unsure. Your mother was delighted. She thought it was lovely. Your father, he could tell. And he had this moment where he asked, and just how much of training has gone into arranging this. And you could sense this tension, this friction within him. But because it was a nice family evening, he had said, just as long as you can, this hobby, as long as you can keep it up aside your training, then, and perhaps, continue while I'm not in the house. It's quite loud, but very good, very good. Like your mother just elbowing him like angrily. Then as weeks had gone on, and this nice family moment pulled far behind you, he had begun to become frustrated because, of course, you had fixated on learning to play this instrument. Training very much fell by the wayside. And at one point, your brother could no longer cover for you. It had got that bad. And he banned you from playing it. This is what it culminated in. You can remember him, these sort of like these moments where he would sort of snap about it, and he was beginning to understand that this instrument meant more to you than the legacy that he was trying to build within you. And that was hurting him and upsetting him. And perhaps because you weren't talking to him about it is part of it. But he wanted to stop that in its tracks, and he didn't know how to talk to you about that either. So he just cut it off. And that was upsetting. Then you tried again to get ready for this festival, and we all know what happened there. Or if you don't, go back and watch previous seasons of Therosian Odyssey.
It's amazing. Go watch it.
And you walk towards this back door, and as you step out of it, you remember that final memory of that conversation that you had as you returned from the gladiator arena, having played out in front of everyone, having defeated that lion. How angry he was, how angry your mother was, and disappointed because you had got your siblings to lie for you in order to achieve this. And that was the thing that hurt her. She didn't care. You could see that you were playing the instrument. She cared that you were hiding things, that you were retracting from them. And you get to this point where you get to the door, and you remember making the decision to leave and to run away at that point, like that. And for a second, you might hesitate to think of going outside, just because you know how much it upset them that you did that, and you know how much it hurt them. But the spirits that are beckoning you out and that are gravitating towards you because you are humming this tune to yourself, they whisper consoling thoughts in your ear that almost sort of seem to suggest it hurt them that you left, but it would have hurt you more if you'd stayed. And above all of these spirits' voices saying this is this one voice. This is the voice you know immediately of the God that is trying to reach out to you through this dream. It is not Eros. It is not Perforus. You're fairly certain it's not even Karametra, though it is a female voice. It's an entirely different voice, and you watch as these spirits float around you, frayed thread, and you realize it is Clothis that you are in the presence of, weaver of fate, telling you that no matter what the consequences were, leaving was your destiny. That was what you were supposed to do. And she says, Eros gives you strength and conviction. Perforos guide your creativity and passion. I can offer you ways to control the chaos that sometimes arises when those things are not in harmony. But I need your help and the help of your friends in order to do so. The fate of many lives in Theros is counting on it. Will you help me?
Without a doubt.
And as you step away from your family, knowing almost with certainty that it's not forever, you're not leaving them behind forever, but you're leaving behind the feeling of being trapped by them. These spirits that had been sort of floating so frantically, drifting so aimlessly, they seem to calm with the sound of your humming that still echoes around you despite you no longer humming it. They seem like they have guidance, like they have purpose, and you can feel all of their very gentle pleas to sing their song and tell their story, and in doing so, write your own through their help, through their knowledge and their lived experience. And you walk towards this arch made up of fraying threads to walk through it as the spirits around you begin to sing. And we shall end our session there. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been excellent fun. It's been so wonderful to get to see Haliuka again. I've missed her with all my heart.
The whole family, it is so lovely, Kat.
Got to see the whole family a little bit. And yeah, we've had an absolute blast here. I've really enjoyed this session. It's been a very good, like, conversational session to get the this has warmed my cold dead heart. It really truly has. It warmed mine too. And I'm very excited about this. So I'm gonna get you, Kumi, first. If you would like to tell everyone a little bit about yourself, and if you want to plug. I keep saying plug yourself, and then I feel like that sounds really awful. But if you want to plug the things that you do and talk about yourself for a bit while I just get my sense of words back, please. Take it away.
Thank you, everyone who joined to watch this. I hope you went on. I'm so glad you went on this emotional journey with us. It was quite beautiful. And yes, please. I think if I have to give a shout out, more than giving a shout out to myself, because that's there on all my social media at Kumi Curiosities, I want to give a shout out to this wonderful campaign. It's available in it's completely available on YouTube. It's 3 hours per session, but it doesn't feel so long. And each session has been incredibly impactful. We have such a talented group of people coming together to like weave the story, pulling all these strands of fate.
Hey! I see what you did there.
And like each character and their play is so different from each other, but I feel like this campaign has really given the truest sense of who we are as people as well, both personally and in what we believe in and what we like to do. So go back. If you have some time, if you're driving somewhere on a flight or just working, listen to us narrate this beautiful story. So yeah, go check out the Low Mistress YouTube channel.
There is a playlist. Let me just see if I can get it up. I think it's if I just type this. Is this? No, I got the wrong command. Good job. So yeah, it's there's a particular command and I can't remember what it is, which is always good. So It's essentially a playlist that keeps all of the because some of the stuff is on Girls Run These Worlds YouTube channel, so I've got a whole playlist of all of season 1 and season 2 are one shot of a familiar problem is on there, which was that has Caillou, Julio the spider, Flitter the sparrow, which is Estrella's little sparrow, and
Octavia.
Yes, and Octavia, who I'm sure that we will meet soon,
Mm.
properly. All coming together to do like a little adventure as sort of parties familiars. It is a we had a really good run looking at Cedric's kitchen today, and it is a set around Cedric's kitchen. It's like a steal the pie, frame Hector style heist. So if that sounds like a bit of you, then check that out. It's all on this YouTube playlist. So go check it out. You can find that in my playlist on my YouTube channel. But yeah, well, thank you for that shout out. That was very, very sweet of you to say. This has been this is a campaign that means so much to me too. As far as other things that I will plug, I can be found on social media at Law Mistress 93. That's where I am on YouTube. It's only here on Twitch that I am the Law Mistress, and I don't know why I made that decision, that branding decision, but I've made it, and there it is. So head on over to those places to find me. My upcoming thing on Tuesday, I'm very excited about this, literally in 2 days' time, will be the first episode of my sponsored stream of Tales from the Loop. I will not be GMing. I will be playing character, and I will be GM'd by the wonderful JC Darcy, who is also Girls Run These Worlds alumni. I will be playing with amazing Taylor Navarro, Fiona Howard, and Ren, who is just incredible. All of them are incredible, and we will be kids in the retro but also futuristic 80s, trying to solve mysteries, and basically I mean, if kind of like Stranger Things, it's a bit of a vibe of that. So if that's your jam, then go for it. But yeah, we would love to see you there, so head on over to watch that. That will be at 8 p.m. British summertime, so in 2 hours from now, but on Tuesday. But yeah, other than that, it was my birthday a few days ago, so I'm trying to be chilled out and yeah, just try to chill out. Cool. I will head off now, but thank you so much for joining us. We will be back with Joan's episode, the final solo episode, and that is probably going to be next Sunday. So that will be the final character. I'm very excited to see what Onyx has been up to. And I will see you all then. Cheerio, everyone.